65% of adults never mentally grow past a certain point. Not because they stop learning facts, not because they aren't smart, but because they stop developing the one thing that determines how you actually process your entire life, and most of them have no idea it's happening. Harvard psychologist Robert Kegan spent decades studying how human minds grow. Not IQ, not knowledge, not school performance. He studied the structure of how people make meaning, how they interpret themselves, other people, and the world. And what he found should quietly unsettle you. The majority of adults in this country are operating from a level of mental development that wasn't designed to handle the complexity of modern adult life. Kegan estimated that 58% of us are not developmentally equipped for the demands we actually face every day. Jobs, relationships, decisions, identity. We were handed a mental toolkit built for a simpler time, and we just kept using it. There are 5 levels, 5 stages of how a mind can grow, and once you understand them, you will never look at yourself or the people around you the same way again. Level 1 is where everything starts, the impulsive mind. You see this in young children. They feel something, they act on it. Hungry, eat, angry, hit, scared, cry. There's no gap between impulse and action. No internal observer saying, wait. The world is experienced through raw sensation and immediate need. Everything is now. Everything is about me. Some adults get stuck here longer than they should, particularly under extreme stress, addiction, or trauma, where the brain can collapse back into pure reaction. But for most people, a natural shift happens in early childhood. The mind starts to understand that it has impulses, and that those impulses don't always have to run the show. That shift takes you to level 2, the imperial mind. And this one's more common in adults than you'd think. The imperial mind is transactional. Rules matter, but only if they benefit you. Other people matter, but mainly as tools or obstacles. You follow the rules because you don't want to get in trouble. You're kind when kindness gets you something back. You're cooperative when cooperation is personally worth it. There's no real internal moral compass here, just a very sophisticated map of cause and effect. Do this, get that. Don't do that, lose this. Think about the coworker who only helps out when they're angling for something, or the friend who's there for you until being there for you becomes inconvenient. That's not a personality flaw, necessarily. That's a developmental stage, and for some people, it's where they permanently live. The mind can hold its own needs, its own goals, its own desires, but it can't yet truly hold another person's inner world as real and separate from its own. But here's where it gets genuinely fascinating and a little uncomfortable, because the stage where most people get stuck isn't level 1 or 2. Those are early stages. Most people make it well past those. The place where 65% of adults in this country stop growing is level 3. Kegan called it the socialized mind, and if you're being honest with yourself, you might recognize it. Maybe in someone you know, maybe in yourself. The socialized mind is defined by one core feature. Your identity is built from the outside in. You don't author your own values. You inherit them from your parents, your culture, your friend group, your religion, your political tribe. The people you grew up around handed you a set of beliefs about what's right, what's acceptable, what success looks like, what kind of person you're supposed to be. And you accepted those beliefs as you, not as something you chose, as something you simply are. And here's the painful part. At level 3, the deepest fear isn't failure. It's disapproval. It's the terror of being rejected by the people whose love and belonging you've organized your entire sense of self around. You don't speak up in the meeting not because you don't have something to say, but because what would they think? You stay in the relationship a year too long not because you don't know it's wrong, but because what would people say? You take the safe career your parents wanted not because it's what you want, but because their approval feels like oxygen, and the thought of losing it is genuinely suffocating. At level 3, you outsource your inner life to the people around you. You need them to be okay with you in order to be okay with yourself. And that's not weakness. That's not stupidity. That is a perfectly natural stage of human development. one that serves a real purpose in childhood and early adulthood, one that helps you learn to belong, to function in groups, to read social cues. But it becomes a cage when you're 34 years old and still can't tell your family what you actually believe. When you've spent so long being what everyone else needed that you genuinely don't know who you are when no one is watching. Tasha Urich, a researcher at the University of Colorado, found something that makes this worse. 95% of people believe they are self-aware. Only 10 to 15% actually are. That means most people at level 3 don't know they're at level 3. They think they've chosen their values. They think they know who they are. They have no idea that the self they're so certain about was assembled from other people's expectations. And there's another layer to this. The Dunning-Kruger effect, that well-documented gap between how competent people think they are and how competent they actually are, shows up sharpest at the bottom. People in the bottom 12th percentile of measured competence consistently rank themselves around the 62nd percentile, a 50-point gap. Not because they were lying, because they genuinely couldn't see what they couldn't see. Limited development doesn't feel like limitation, it feels like clarity. So why does level 3 have such a grip on people? Part of it is the system itself. Bloom's taxonomy, the framework most American education is built on, has 6 levels of thinking. At the bottom, remembering and understanding. Just above that, applying and analyzing. At the top, evaluating and creating. Studies consistently show that most classrooms, most workplaces, most training programs operate almost entirely at those bottom 2 levels. Remember this, understand this, repeat it back. The higher order thinking, the ability to question assumptions, challenge inherited frameworks, evaluate your own beliefs from the outside, those skills are systematically undertaught. Not because teachers don't care, but because the whole system rewards compliance over questioning, and compliance is the native language of the socialized mind. You were rewarded for having the right answers, not for questioning whether the question itself was worth asking. Now here's where the story shifts. Because there is a level 4, and reaching it changes everything. Keegan called it the self-authoring mind. Only about 35% of adults get here. And the difference between level 3 and level 4 isn't a matter of raw intelligence. It's a matter of who you're taking your cues from. At level 3, your identity is given to you. At level 4, you build it yourself. You develop an internal compass, a set of values, principles, and beliefs that you've actually examined, questioned, and consciously chosen. You can hear criticism without being destroyed by it. You can sit across from someone who fundamentally disagrees with you and not need to convince them, not need to win, not even need to be liked, because your sense of self isn't riding on their approval. Think about what that actually feels like. To know what you believe and why you believe it, not because someone told you to believe it, not because your whole social world would collapse if you didn't, but because you sat with the question long enough to find your own answer. That's freedom in the truest sense. Not the freedom to do whatever you want, the freedom to know what you want in the first place. At level 4, you can also hold multiple perspectives at once. You can understand why someone raised in a different part of the country with a different set of experiences arrived at completely different conclusions than you. And you can respect that without abandoning your own. You're no longer just a product of your environment. You're a person who can reflect on your environment, disagree with it, grow beyond it. But wait, there's a level 5, the self-transforming mind. Rare. We're talking maybe 1 to 2% of the adult population. At this level, even your own carefully constructed identity becomes something you can hold with a kind of lightness. You can see your own values and belief systems as useful maps, but you know they're not the territory. You can step back from your own worldview and notice its edges, its blind spots, its limitations. You can sit inside genuine paradox, hold 2 contradictory truths at once, without needing to resolve the tension. Most of us find that deeply uncomfortable. Level 5 minds find it interesting. Think about the wisest person you've ever met. The one who didn't push their views on you but somehow helped you think more clearly just by being around them. That's what this looks like from the outside. Here's what the science adds to this picture. MIT and the Association for Psychological Science have tracked how different cognitive abilities peak at different points in life. Processing speed peaks at 18 or 19, short-term memory peaks around 25, but emotional intelligence, the ability to accurately read other people, peaks in your 40s and 50s, and crystallized intelligence, the accumulated wisdom of experience and reflection, doesn't peak until your late 60s and 70s. So when someone older than you says something that cuts through the noise in a way you can't quite explain, that's not a coincidence. That's decades of developed cognition doing its work, which means the window never closes. That's the part that matters. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to physically rewire itself, doesn't stop in your 20s. Adults can move up these levels. The catch is that it requires something most people actively avoid: deliberate discomfort. Exposure to people who think differently than you, questions you can't answer quickly, beliefs you've held your whole life that you're finally willing to look at directly and ask, did I actually choose this? Or was I just never given a reason to question it? Moving from level 3 to level 4 isn't a single moment. It's not a class you take or a book you read. It's a process. It usually starts with a rupture, a relationship that ends and forces you to ask who you are without that person, a job that falls apart and strips away an identity you didn't realize you'd borrowed, a moment where the approval you'd been chasing suddenly disappears, and in the silence after, you hear something that might be your actual voice for the first time. It requires metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking, to catch yourself mid-reaction and ask, is this really what I believe? Or is this what I was taught to believe? To notice the borrowed opinions, the inherited fears, the scripts you've been running since childhood that you never consciously agreed to run. It requires sitting with uncertainty. At level 3, uncertainty is threatening because if you don't know what you think, you have to borrow certainty from the group. At level 4, uncertainty becomes workable. You can say, I don't know yet, and feel curious instead of panicked, and it requires honesty, specifically, the courage to tell one inconvenient truth in one conversation to one person whose approval you've been protecting. Because that moment, where you say what you actually think and the sky doesn't fall, is often where level 4 begins. Here's the honest truth about all of this. The system is not designed to push you upward. School didn't teach you to question your inherited beliefs. Most jobs don't reward it. Even some relationships punish it. Because when you start to self-author, the people around you who are still at level 3 sometimes feel threatened. They mistake your growth for abandonment, your boundaries for rejection, your clarity for arrogance. Growing is not always received well. That's real. But the alternative is staying in a cage that you've started to mistake for home. The research is clear. Most people won't make this jump, not because they can't, but because no one ever told them the jump was possible, or necessary, or what it would feel like on the other side. But you're watching this, which means something in you is already asking the question. So let me ask you directly. Drop it in the comments, and be honest with yourself. What level do you think you're actually operating at right now? Not what level you want to be at, the one you actually live in day to day. And here's the harder question. Is there a belief you hold about yourself, about your relationships, about what your life should look like, that came from your family or your culture? Something you've never actually questioned? Something that, if you're being real, might not be yours at all? If something in this video cracked something open for you, hit the like button. It genuinely helps more people find this. Share it with someone who you think is ready to hear it, because sometimes people need permission to ask these questions out loud. And subscribe, because next week we're going somewhere that builds directly on this. What actually happens inside your brain when you start to grow past the stage you're stuck in, and why it can feel like loss before it feels like freedom. You can grow. The science says so. The only question is whether you're willing to make it uncomfortable enough to actually happen.